feared and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hit you with a win. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the PTBNL, the podcast to be named later. Talking Phillies baseball here on the Always Next Year podcast network. I'm your host, Rob, and tonight I'm joined by Andrew. How's it going, Andrew?
Pretty good. You know, after 3 weeks, I think I'm finally starting to get situated in this coronavirus.
If you could say that, yeah. I don't know if there's such a thing as getting situated. It's just kind of, it's
That's
becoming
fair.
The new normal.
Yeah, finding things to do, I guess, is a better way to put it.
I'm already running out of things to do, but I guess I'll have to start finding new stuff. We're also joined by Shane. How's it going, Shane?
What's going on, Rob? How are you, man?
I am surviving. And we are also joined by Biscuit. How's it going, Biscuit?
Good evening, everyone. I'm doing very well, Rob. How are you?
All right.
That's all we can do.
Yeah, basically just gotta stick this thing, wait it out until, who knows when it's gonna be over. It feels like it's gonna be forever, but we gotta wait it out. It's pretty much the only option. So trying to fill the time by doing things such as recording podcast episodes. So before we get into it, I'm gonna tell you about where you can find us on social media. You can find the Always Next Year podcast network at ANYP or ANY podcast. You can find our personals. I'm at radio_Rob. Shane, where can we find you?
It's Shane_Mead.
All right. And Biscuit, where can we find you?
You can find me at Broseph Biscuit on Twitter, both B's capitalized.
And Andrew?
AJ_Santangelo.
And you can also find the PTBNL at ANYP Phillies on Twitter. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, SoundCloud, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on there. Just search us. You'll be able to find all the episodes that we've recorded. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please give us a rating, give us a review. We definitely use that stuff to kind of build our podcasts and figure out where we can make changes, where we can be better, what we do well. And we're trying to make the best product possible for you, the listener. So help us help you. All right, so we're going to get into it now. Obviously, the coronavirus, unfortunately, still a very, very big topic and still ruling the world and keeping sports canceled. So there have been talks amongst the various sports leagues across the world about eventually resuming play, whether it be with limited attendance, no attendance. They're trying to figure out the situation, I guess, as to when they can finally have full crowds in their home stadiums. And we don't know if it's even going to be this year or not. But I was thinking about this as I was listening to something on the radio the other day. When they do finally allow for full crowds at Major League Baseball stadiums, and Shane, we'll start with you for this one. How do you think that fans will react to that? Will fans come out in droves? Will there be sellouts? Will it be kind of a gradual thing where maybe people are still getting comfortable with being in big crowds and maybe the crowds aren't as big to start off? Or do you think they'll get back to, packing the ballpark?
I think it's impossible to tell right now, but the one thing I will say is that there's a huge group of people that 3 weeks ago had absolutely not an ounce of concern, and they thought this thing was ridiculous. And with each passing day, this thing gets more and more surreal. And you start seeing those people, and myself included in this. I was someone who didn't particularly fear this thing in the beginning because I wasn't properly educated. Well, I am now, and most people are now. Our state is kind of taking that out of our hands. I do think that this is the thing that it's going to take some time to recover from. I think that there's going to be a group of people that when ballparks are allowed to be opened, and venues for anything, concerts, sporting events, whatever, they're just going to go. But I do think there's going to be a vast majority of those seats empty for quite some time.
Yeah, I could certainly see why people. I mean, they're probably going to open ballparks to the general public. Maybe not, while this virus is still going strong, but there's a good chance that, because of the fact that you can be asymptomatic, there will still be people carrying around this virus even after things are opened back up. And I think a lot of people will realize that, and they'll be a little bit skeptical about going back out into public where there's big crowds. They don't want to go to sporting events or concerts or things like that where they're going to be surrounded by, 30, 40, 50,000 people. So I could certainly see what you alluded to, that there will be a large faction of people that would be a little bit reluctant to become parts of big crowds once the stadiums open back up. Andrew, how do you feel about this?
I think it's definitely going to affect certain areas. I think it depends on where everyone's situated. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I saw on Twitter a map released of New York. I don't know who it was in New York, but they collected a bunch of cell phone data, and it showed the states that were listening to staying at home the best versus states that weren't. So I think obviously some states are clearly listening to all the stuff going on and staying at home, and I think that kind of shows where it's going to impact the most. So I think Pennsylvania is pretty good, and same with New York and stuff. So I think those stadiums are going to be kind of empty, and it's going to take a little bit to get used to coming back. But the ones that, they used the color red to show who was leaving. So the ones that had states filled with red, I think those states are just going to keep going because they obviously aren't listening now when it's in the thick of it being the worst part about it. So I think for those states, it's going to not affect as much. But from a personal standpoint, it's going to affect even me. And I remember when this first started, I guess like you, Shane, I kind of didn't realize how serious it was going to get. And I kind of undervalued it about how serious it was. And I remember seeing on Twitter, someone asked the question, if you were able to go to a game and you already had tickets, would this affect it? And I remember responding to him. I was like, no, absolutely not. I'd still go to the game. But after realizing what it's at now, me personally, I would definitely wait a few weeks once the season starts back up before I go to a game.
Do you think it's more so? Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think I would be with you. I'd be a little bit more cautious. I would want, to make sure that this thing has totally quieted down before I start going to baseball games and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did take a look at that map, and there are certainly some cities that are super densely populated that are completely red, and that's moronic to me. But there are a good handful of states out there that people are kind of going about their business, but they're certainly not, New Yorkly densely populated. I think it's going to be location based. I think that, you may see some Midwest, teams out there that are not overly affected, in terms of what their attendance may be right when the season starts. But there are going to be other cities, like New York that may have to put particular things in place even still. I just think it's going to be a location by location thing. I would assume that Philadelphia, now that we've kind of seen the severity of this, and like I said, this is, I still get frustrated being on the road every day going to work. I still think there's more traffic than there needs to be, but even that,
as do I.
There's next to no one out. I do think this is going to take some time before we see normal again in Philly.
Yeah, I think some of it has to do with the fact that we're so close to New York, which is the epicenter of it, and the Northeast it's the most densely populated area of the country. So basically, any city along this, I think that for the train people, they call it the Northeast Corridor, which runs from D.C. up through Boston, which is the most densely populated area of the country. That's going to be hit the hardest by this. I don't know if it's going to be nearly the same if you go to other parts, say if you go out to Texas or Colorado or something like that. But definitely the area that we live in, it's going to be hit pretty hard. Biscuit, how do you feel about this?
Part of me wants to say that when it is okay for people to be in the stands, people are going to flock. I think people who are taking this seriously, even ones who aren't, they, don't want to live this kind of lifestyle anymore. And once every shed of normalcy kind of slowly matriculates its way back to us, I think everyone's going to kind of grasp on all of those opportunities, whether it be, hanging out with friends or, going to places with crowds of more than like 10 to 20 people and going to sporting events. I just think everyone's so yearning for that return to normalcy that when sports are back and like fans are able to go into the stadiums, I think they're going to do it. And I think they're going to go there in the masses, just for that, sense of normalcy to be back in their lives. However, even with the virus, like, the biggest thing with like the economic impacts of this, like, it's going to have a toll on the sporting industry. It's already had an impact. Are games going to be more expensive? Like, correct me if you guys think my logic is flawed on this, but like, the MLB is losing money right now. So like, obviously people who've had tickets throughout the season might be able to get, different games to go to if there's baseball even played, but like, games might be more expensive. Concessions and, souvenirs might be more pricey. It might not be,
I don't think so right from the jump.
You don't think so?
No. I mean, with what money? So many people are going to be out of work or had been out of work for, however long. I honestly think it's going to be one of those things where, we're going to see really, really reduced prices compared to what we believed that they would have been going into this season for a bit, so that one, they can put more asses in seats, and it would behoove them to sit there and sell 35,000 tickets averaging $22 a pop versus selling 10,000 seats at $45 a pop. Like, at a certain point, you want to continue to draw crowds. That way those TV watchers who have that reservation of, shit, I don't really know that I want to go. How are people feeling about this stuff? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, there's 10,000 people in the seats, so those are the people that would have been there regardless. Oh, there's 35,000 people in the seats? You know what? I think we're good here. So I do think that it would behoove them to start off with a lower rate, both in concession and in tickets, to put people in there to kind of reinstill that faith that, hey, we're good now. Like, we have this thing under wraps. That's my personal opinion of that.
Yeah, and Shane, to put it in perspective, that's what airlines are doing as well. I looked online because I've been thinking about maybe once this is all over, maybe going on a vacation somewhere, and the airline ticket prices for later this year are a lot cheaper than they normally would be. So I think the airlines are going that route with selling cheaper tickets to kind of make up for the lost crowds on their planes that they would have had around this time. And I think that you can probably expect to see that in sports as well, that teams will go with cheaper tickets just to try to fill their stadiums and get people their interest back in the game.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a wavering interest in any sports. I mean, honestly, you could throw cricket on the TV right now and the world's going to stop and watch. It just doesn't matter. But I do think that the biggest thing is, can you sell, an uncertainty of health? If you watch this with 10,000 people in the seats, like I said, you think these are the 10,000 people that would have went there if they said the coronavirus started in CBP. Like, they didn't give a fuck. 35,000 people there night in and night out. That's a little different. You're selling out at the 45,000. If you see that there, that reinstills a faith and a confidence that, the world is getting closer to normal. And it's going to be really important to put that thought in people's heads, even before the thought of, I'm really excited to go see a baseball game. It has to be one of those, I'm really excited to see a baseball game where I'm comfortable and I feel safe.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think a big thing here will be developing a cure, because developing a cure for this will, it'll give people more confidence that they can go out there and potentially, have some sort of risk of getting this disease, and knowing that there's a cure out there that they can get rid of it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, you guys got anything else that you want to add to that topic there? Or?
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm more so just curious, like, on that topic, what different precautions are going to be put in place as the season starts that will become mainstays. We see things, the security threats in all these stadiums, have made what used to be a 3-minute process to get into your seats a 45-minute to an hour process to get into your seats. Because once something has been exposed and once something has been made aware, there is those lingering effects that changes now forever. I'm curious, like genuinely curious to sit here and see what things the casual fan is going to have to walk into and, like I said, be forced to kind of deal with it at any ballpark or any concert event or anything. Obviously with security measures, we have the metal detectors. We have, we've had the guys and girls with wands for forever as well. But for this, like, I don't know what kind of measure they're going to put into place at this point.
I think one thing.
Go ahead.
I think one thing you'll see is a lot less interaction between players and fans. I know towards the end of spring training, I think I saw a Jim Salisbury tweet that was like they're handing out signed cards or signed baseballs and they're just tossing them into the crowds from afar. I think you could see more of that. I think especially like early in the season, like I said, I think if baseball's going to start this year at all, I think it'll start with empty fans in the ballparks. And then not even playing like anywhere. Like they won't be in Philly. They'll be playing at neutral stadiums. But I think even when fans do get back into the ballpark, you're going to see less of that interaction because there is still going to be that gradual process that you mentioned, Shane, whereas, things are creeping back to normalcy, but you're not there quite yet. And there is a very strong level of, concern still. So I think there might be just less interaction there.
And that's a shame because that's one thing that baseball doesn't really have. You take a look at like the NBA and how interactive those guys are on social media and, in their arenas. I mean, hockey is infinitely quotable. NFL, I think, is similar, but NFL is it's just its own beast. Like that just runs this country in terms of the sports world. But baseball's always been behind the curve with just about everything. So that would be a real shame to sit there and even further minimize, what we do get from our players in terms of getting to know them as people too.
Yeah.
Especially the way they usually come out and like sign the autographs and stuff up and down the line. It's always just such a fun way for fans, especially young fans, to kind of like meet them and stuff. And I mean, you always get the guys that are kind of hesitant already, but then you always get the fun players that even take pictures with the young kids and stuff. And that's just such a cool sight to see, especially for someone who used to do it when he was younger and continue to still do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys brought that up because that reminds me of another thing that I was thinking of. Do you think that fans will be hesitant to interact with each other, exchanging high fives or something like that when their team hits a home run or something like that, anything that involves physical contact, like high fives, fist bumps, anything along those lines? Do you think fans will be a little bit more hesitant to kind of go through with that stuff?
I don't. I think that emotional instances are exactly that. I think that your natural emotions take over and you may see, some regret or some like people who are carrying around hand sanitizer that ordinarily would have never done so. But I mean, you react in emotions to these games. We live, I mean, Biscuit had said it the other night on the show, that sports, they mean so much to so many people and they do bring out that level of emotion that most things really don't. So I don't really think that there's going to be a lot less of that, but I do think there's going to be a lot more of like morning after regrets that you may see on some people's faces. Like, shit, that guy's a fucking slob. Why did I just slap his hands? Does anyone in this entire place have just a bath worth of sanitizer? Like, you may see that, but I don't think that you're going to see people, less likely to sit there and interact and enjoy the moment with each other.
Oh man. Speaking of that, I actually have my PlayStation turned on behind me here, and the background for my PlayStation, I guess, homepage is the Eagles Super Bowl celebration in Center City, and there's probably 100,000 people here, and you've got people like sitting up on other people's shoulders and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely sports does bring people to have those kind of in the moment reactions. So that's a good point there.
Yeah, I think, once once you make that move to that I'm not over, but like you get behind what's already happening, you make the move to get down there, realizing there's going to be thousands of people in that stadium. I think again that emotion will kind of have you kind of forget about it because you're already mixed in with those fans. So I think it won't affect it too much on that sense of after a big play. But to Shane's point about that he mentioned hand sanitizer. I was thinking you might see that in stadiums though. I mean, baseball added the sunscreen stuff. You might see them kind of add a bunch of the hand sanitizer stuff now to go along with that sunscreen.
Some Phillies decor hand sanitizer.
It's probably something that they should have been doing all along, to be honest with you.
Honestly, they may already be there, but none of us know because we're filthy humans.
That's fair.
Or that.
And also, fuck hand sanitizer. It really doesn't do much. It just moves around the dirt. You need soap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they say that anything that's over, at least the CDC says anything over 60% alcohol is effective as a substitute. So I don't know. I don't know how much I trust anything that I hear from anything these days, but that's what they say. Anyway, moving on to something else here. We recently celebrated, I forget which day it was exactly, but we recently celebrated what would have been Harry Kalas's birthday, and also coming up a week from tomorrow will be the 11th anniversary of the day he passed away. So I don't know about you guys, but I've been watching a ton of Phillies highlights during my downtime, and a lot of those great highlights, especially from the 07, 08 seasons and, leading up to that, of course, are accompanied by the great play calls of Harry Kalas. And I've been thinking about how much, he was a part of my childhood and growing up as a Phillies fan. He was the voice of summer. What did Harry mean to you guys? And Biscuit, we'll start with you this time. What did Harry mean to you as a Phillies fan growing up?
I mean, you kind of said it, Rob. He was the voice of baseball, for Philly fans at least. I don't have a specific call that stands out to mind, but just listening here, him call a home run call, and I believe it was Mike Schmidt's 500th home run. I wanted to say 500 or 400th, but that one stands out to me. Obviously the World Series call, Chase Utley, you are the man. The list goes on. Just such a powerful voice to the city of Philadelphia and such a very engaging man. I think there's something so powerful about baseball announcers compared to or play-by-play callers as opposed to other sports, just Vin Scully, Harry Kalas, oh my god, the guy from the White Sox, his name's blanking, but put him on the yep, he's another one. It just adds such a level to the sport that not many play-by-play people bring nowadays. It's really something special.
Yeah, and you could tell that Harry truly loved the city of Philadelphia and calling Phillies games. I mean, people, I don't know why people don't like Homer announcers. I think Homer announcers are great for the game because they add emotion to it, especially if they're calling the game for the team that you root for. And Harry was so good about displaying the emotion of the game. When the Phillies would hit a home run, he would be so emphatic with his out of here call. And then I specifically remember one against the Astros back in 2005 when we were fighting with them for the NL wild card, and Greg Biggio hit a
street.
I'm sorry, what's that?
No, go ahead. You were talking about a different moment.
When Biggio hit a home run off of Billy Wagner that gave the Astros a win in an important game back in 2005, and Harry was just he gave the most depressing home run call of all time, and at that point you just knew the season was over based on that call right there. So he was so good at kind of inflicting the emotion of the moment and the emotion of the season, and I think that's one of the reasons why he was so endearing to all the Phillies fans. Shane, what are your thoughts on Harry and how he affected you as a Philly fan growing up?
So I'm someone who, I've always had a thing for specific voices, whether it be through music or speaking, and in this case, commentating and announcing, because it does just enhance the emotion of the moment. Your eyes tell you one thing, but your senses are so powerful. And if you close your eyes, if you just listen to a Harry Kalas call, you can tell everything that happened in that moment without seeing the big picture of anything. You could tell that, if you just flip, like I said, if you play any Harry Kalas call from any time, you can tell, this is probably a middle of the inning type of thing. Like, oh, this is a game changing moment right now. Or this is a Biggio's end of the season for you moment. And there are a few voices that kind of have that power and conviction in what they say and how they say it. And Biscuit, you mentioned another voice, one that I don't dislike, in Vin Scully. Vin Scully's forever been seen as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, to have ever done this. And I don't know if it's me just falling in love with Harry Kalas's voice and the way that he could call a game for you, but I never thought it was even close. And I sit there and it's crazy. As much Phillies baseball as I watched and listened to over the years, my biggest thing was NFL films. Seeing the versatility of someone like him, like knowing the passion that he had for the game of baseball and the city of Philadelphia and the organization here. It's impressive enough as it is, but to take that and to still have that conviction and cross the sports worlds and to bring that, honestly, is the reason I started loving football. You take that emotion from a character that's in the game of baseball and you put it in another sport, and that same conviction travels there with it. It's hard to not fall in love with what the person's saying. And that's honestly what brought me into football. So for me, I mean, Harry Kalas, who's to know if I'd have been a true 4-for-4 guy, if I didn't have Harry Kalas. I remember the day he passed, I was at work and, I got the text alert or tweet alert or whatever it was. And I just turned to my boss. I was like, I gotta fucking go. Like I need to go turn on the radio. And I just drove, and it was like 3 hours later before I came back. And like my boss, who should have fired me, was just like, I get it. Like, you need to do what you need to do. Because that's what it was like, man. And so his impact is not small for the people of Philadelphia.
Yeah, I remember that was a really tough day. I didn't find out about it until my buddy Kevin texted me. He's like, dude, Harry Kalas died. I was shocked. I probably sat there on the couch for probably 30 minutes just in complete shock that the voice of summer for what had been the first 18 years of my life was just gone. And I didn't watch the Phillies game that day. I couldn't bring myself to watch the Phillies game knowing that Harry wasn't going to be calling it. But I do remember afterwards watching the highlights, and it was really cool. I think Howard and Victorino both hit home runs and both pointed up to the press box down in Washington as they crossed home plate. So it kind of speaks to his relationship. He always had such a great relationship with the players, and the players loved having him as their announcer too. And I think that's one of the marks of a truly beloved sports figure and play-by-play guy. And Harry certainly was beloved here. Andrew, what are your feelings on Harry Kalas?
I think you guys said a lot of great things. I mean, you just mentioned the how his relationship with the players and stuff, and I think that just goes to show a lot of it is how much he meant to them as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Tom McCarthy, but I mean, you never see like pictures of him kind of interacting with the players like you saw Harry Kalas doing, like just from singing High Hopes with the team after we won the championship, or singing High Hopes after in the 1993 videos. You kind of don't see. I mean, yeah, you hear McCarthy say, "Oh, we talk to the players and stuff," obviously, because they interact with each other all the time. But you also don't get that same feel that they have that same relationship and stuff. And I think that just goes to show a lot of it. And then going back to you guys talk about the moment he passed. I mean, I remember that moment perfectly. And I was actually playing PlayStation at the time, and my grandmom called me, and because she knew how big of a fan I was, and she calls me and lets me know, because I wasn't paying attention to the news at the time, and she tells me, and it's like you don't believe it at first, and it just strikes in a different way. And I just remember I just stopped playing, and it was before the game. I think that also goes to show how like he passes while he's setting up to announce a game in a few hours. And I think that just shows everything of who he was as a person to the team. And I think I actually got a lot of that out of it. I even read his, I don't know if you guys got a chance to read his book.
Yeah, it's on my shelf. I'm literally looking at it right now.
That's right, it's right next to me too. I was looking at it, that's what made me think of it. But I read that, and that's what also gave me the dream of going into like the media business with sports, and something I was actually lucky to have this past year working at the college I work at. I was able to do color commentary with the radio play-by-play down there, and it's just that stuff. He gave me the dream of doing that kind of stuff and kind of working up to that ability.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. He's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into announcing sporting events. I worked for WBCB in Levittown, and he certainly was a huge influence, and also Merrill Reese, who happens to own the radio station I work for, being the play-by-play guy for the Eagles for 40 plus years, is a huge influence as well. But Harry was the first guy. Harry was the first person who piqued my interest in announcing sporting events, because he did it and he just seemed like he enjoyed it so much that, he had a genuine love for the game and a genuine love for his job as a play-by-play announcer of the Phillies. And he died doing what he loved.
Exactly. And I think, again, that's something special, is like just he was there, like getting set up for the game before that happened. And there's just so many calls you can go back on and reminisce on how good they were. And I know one of my favorites is honestly the clinching game of '07 in the National League East. I think that's almost as good as if not even tied with the World Series call. I think just the way he brings the fan excitement into it, knowing it's been since 1993, 14 years, and he includes the whole call is just tremendous.
Do you guys have favorite calls or favorite names that he would announce?
I was going to bring up that one, actually. I still have that call kind of imprinted in my mind, along with the visualization of Brett Myers chucking his glove up in the air. But I'd say, Shane, to answer your question, my favorite is when Pat Burrell hit a walk-off home run against the Giants in '08. It was a game where Aaron Rowand, it was his first game back in Philadelphia after he left to head out to San Francisco, and he hit a home run in the top half of the 10th inning to give the Giants the lead. And then with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the bottom of the 10th, the Phillies had a guy on, and Burrell hit a 2-run homer off Brian Wilson to win it. And Harry's call perfectly embodied the emotion of that moment. And that's probably my favorite. Aside from winning the World Series, that's probably my favorite call from him.
What about you guys?
I think one of my favorite calls is staying on the Aaron Rowand is when he ran into the fence and broke his nose. The way Harry Callis called that was just perfect to me, and this goes to show how good he was too. He knew the stakes. I'm pretty sure that was the game that it gets shortened by rain too, so it really did save the game. And Harry Callis was able to he knew the forecast. He knew that inning, that catch sealed that inning and made it a complete game, and he even ties it into that. And that just goes to show of how knowledgeable he was too. But that call in general was one of my favorites.
Did you ever realize that he says, "Are you kidding me?" before Rowand even makes the catch? He knew that Rowand was going to make the catch.
I've listened to it so many times. Actually, eventually I did pick up on that.
I don't really have a specific favorite. Anytime, I was watching a game and he called a Ryan home run ball, his 58th home run. But to answer Shane's question, the names he would pronounce, I always love when he would say Raul Banez, how it rolled off the tongue.
Mine was 100% Mickey Morandini. That was another one that I would sit there and my grandmother would obviously mention it numerous times, the reason I love Phillies baseball. But she would do an impersonation that was not even fucking close. But I appreciated what she was doing. But yeah, Mickey Morandini was one of my favorite Phillies to watch growing up too. So I always got excited to hear that call. I was just about to go do it. It took a big breath, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do this tonight. I'm not gonna ruin that. But if you haven't heard him call out Mickey Morandini, you should. And damn, it would have been cool to hear him call out the future of the Philadelphia Phillies and Mickey Moniak too.
Ooh.
Oh man.
Yeah, Morandini, baseball name.
Mickey Morandini is just an incredible baseball name. I don't really remember much of him other than the unassisted triple play, which I only had to see highlights of because I wasn't old enough to actually watch the team at the time, but don't really remember much of him. But it's an incredible baseball name. And I can imagine Harry had some fun with it too.
Yeah, one of my favorites I'd say is the way he said Victorino. He kind of rolled that one off too. I think that was a strong
Victorino.
one.
That's one of the highlights I watched the other day was Victorino hitting a walk-off home run. It was a walk-off home run against the Giants, and it was on his figurine day.
Hmm.
That was pretty cool. So, but yeah, lots of great Harry moments and great calls, and I'm sure if you go on YouTube like I have, you'll come across many great memories that he had the play-by-play call to, and his call is just as memorable as the moment itself. So yeah, some really good ones there. Definitely worth checking out. All right, so one of the things that I was kind of thinking of during all this downtime that we've had due to coronavirus, and also based off of some of the ideas that I've heard on different radio shows, if you guys could build a starting nine, including the pitcher, obviously, off of players who are currently playing for all the NL East teams, and Shane, we'll start with you this time.
Ah, shit.
We'll start with the catcher. And I think this
easy.
one's this is probably the easiest one out there. Who would you go with?
JT.
Yeah, it's a fairly obvious answer.
Yeah, I think that should be an obvious one for people.
All right, so
let's hope it's JT across the board.
yeah.
Actually, guys, mine is Jorge Alfaro. So.
If he's playing the Phillies 162 games a year, then yeah, sure.
Like 131 home runs.
Fuck Jorge Alfaro.
What do you mean?
Oh man. All right, so we've established right there it's unanimous. It's JT across the board. All right, so we'll go across the diamond now. We'll start at third base, where maybe it's not a clear-cut Phillies answer here. And Shane, we'll go back to you for this one since catcher was kind of obvious. Who's your third baseman for the NL East?
It's Arenado. Oh shit, we're doing only NL East?
Yeah, I figured it would be a little bit more interesting if we just narrowed down to the 5 teams in the NL East.
Oh, isn't that a bitch? I have not done this for just the NL East because I didn't read your notes until then. Damn. All right.
I can start.
I'm gonna go Bohm because he's gonna be here.
Oh,
he's disgustingly good. Like it's I've never been so wrong about a Phillies draft pick and feel so confident in saying so. So by week whatever of the season, if it ever begins, like it's gonna be Alec Bohm.
Fair enough.
Now let me go redo my whole fucking thing. Go to me last each time.
Good.
Shit.
All right, Andrew, what about you? Who's your third baseman for the NL East?
I think this is one of the weaker positions, honestly, in the division. So I actually stuck with the Phillies. I went whoever starts at third, whether it's Gene Segura or Scott Kingery. I'm going to say Segura because he's going to be. It sounds like he would have been the starting third baseman. So I'm going to say him because I just think it's a weaker spot in the NL East.
All right, Biscuit, what about you?
So as Andrew mentioned, it was one of the weaker positions. I actually had to do a little Googling to find some names because nobody could pop up right off the old stiff cuff. But I chose someone who doesn't really play third base anymore, but I know he did like kind of in his earlier days. So I went with Howie Kendrick with the Nationals. I love Howie Kendrick. Obviously, he was the postseason hero for the Nationals when they won the World Series. I thought there was a chance the Phillies could try to go after him to re-sign him, just to have someone kind of be like a clog for when Alec Bohm does come up, so they could have that person for like a month and a half or so to platoon at the position, then kind of turn into that super utility role. The guy's just a model of consistency. He's always been good. He's been sneaky good. Obviously, there was the juice ball last year, but he had a little bit more power. And as Andrew mentioned again, it was one of the weaker positions in the NL East, so I think he was one of the best options.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely would put that name up there on my list. Personally, I'm going to go with Johan Camargo. Had a bit of a down year, but I think that the potential is still there with him. He was blocked by Josh Donaldson for the past couple of seasons in Atlanta. Donaldson no longer there with the Braves. So I think Camargo could be a pretty good third baseman. I want to say Alec Boehm, but I'm not. I'm going to go on, what I've seen so far versus what the potential is, and I've seen some good things from Camargo. Well, not good if you're a Phillies fan, but I've seen potential from him.
We saw a 3-for-5 night in Reading or in Trenton of Alec Boehm. You've seen all you need to see, sir. Jump on the island. Water's warm.
Wait a minute. In Trenton, I thought we saw a no-hitter in Trenton.
Did we see a no-hitter in Trenton? So did we see him go 3-for-5 in Reading?
I think it might have been in Reading, yeah.
Huh.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah, fuck that. I do remember that. That was shit.
Oh, man. All right, well, anyway, I'm still going to go Camargo as my third baseman. So, interesting to see two different Phillies names for third base, though. I like how you guys approach that there.
Kind of three.
Kind of three, yeah. Fair enough. All right, so we'll move on to the position of shortstop, and Biscuit, we'll start with you.
So shortstop, I actually have a question mark written in because I type out my little show notes like a good little boy. I think it's one of the, I don't know, like no one pops off at the top of my head. I'm gonna go with Gene just because I do think Gene is going to have a significantly better year than I think he would have, or I thought he would have this year, since, coronavirus, no season. Damn you, coronavirus.
Second baseman, he's never going to play shortstop.
Well, I mean, he played there last year. He was horrible defensively, but like what other shortstop kind of sticks like out at the top of your head in the NL East?
Sir. Didi.
Okay, so we've seen.
Oh, well, honestly, I think I like Gene more than Didi.
So we've seen Segura mentioned as a third baseman and a second baseman here.
This is amazing for a guy who's a slap hitter and nothing more. That's cool. I appreciate the love regardless.
I like Mean Gene. I think he was primed for a big year. I like the guy's bat.
Me too.
I like that he doesn't strike out a lot. He moves runners. I think the Kutch injury and just the lack of Kutch in general at the top of the lineup kind of knocked him off of his game. I think he had a lot of personal shit going on. I think he was primed to really, have a good year. I don't know if I would say he was going to have a career year, but I think he was someone that was going to be productive. And out of all the other shortstops, including Didi, I think Gene would have had a bigger year than Didi.
All right. Andrew, how do you feel about shortstop?
So I went with Trey Turner. I think he's the best shortstop in the National League East. I think he's got it all. He hit for good average. He can steal. I think he's just a solid piece at the top of the lineup.
I totally forgot about him.
All right, so I semi-sarcastically have Bryson Stott, but I do have a name outside of him. But I'm going to pitch my Bryson Stott thing first. I actually 100% believe that Bryson Stott is going to. We've seen it all across baseball. Teams so willing to sit there and fast track guys, and we've seen that with Phillies pitchers who 100% are not deserving outside of Aaron Nola. But we haven't really seen it until Adam Hazley, and it was because of an injury. I don't know how likely we would have seen it, but Bryson Stott was another guy who spent some time in college. He's not going to need 4 years the way that some of these other guys will. So I actually believe that he could be on a fast track, and that if certain things happen, if certain guys are moved for any particular reason, I think there's a world where you could see Didi slide to third and Bryson Stott come up and play short, or the other way around. If a trade partner presents itself for Gene at any point. I think he's that good, and I think he is ready despite the limited professional at bats at this point. But of a guy who's proven, I'm actually going to go with a guy who I love, and I know a lot of other people really are sour on him, but I love Dansby Swanson. I could watch him play defense just every day. He's a really, really good defensive shortstop. His bat started coming back. He's like an every other year guy. He's a Jekyll and Hyde offensive player, and we've seen that in Phillies history too. But I think he's a really undervalued piece, and I think he's going to have a fantastic career in Atlanta. And he's got like the best baseball hair I've ever seen in my life. Like, he's a total baseball player. So
can't possibly be better than Jetpacks and Bryce. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. He's a fucking beautiful man. But Dansby Swanson, if I had to go with a guy who's already at the major league level, but if not, I actually genuinely believe Bryson Stott's going to be a game changer for this Philadelphia Phillies franchise once he's finally up.
Both very valid answers there. I am actually, as much as I dislike the Mets, I'm going to go with Amed Rosario. Had a really nice breakout season. I think he hit close to 300 last year. He had like 15, 20 home runs. I know a lot about him because he kills the Phillies, but and he's only 24 years old, so he's got a lot of room to grow as well. I think that Amed Rosario, he's already a pretty damn solid second baseman, and he's only going to get better. He's going to be a thorn in the Phillies side for years to come. So I think I would go with Amed Rosario as my shortstop for the National League. All right, so move on to second base, and Shane, we'll start with you for this one.
I'm going to go with the other guy who's got beautiful hair. I'm going to go with Kingery. I've been a Kingery fan for several years now. I had the opportunity to watch him during kind of his breakout campaign in Reading, and then as he got transitioned over into AAA where we had season tickets. So I saw a ton of him in the minor leagues, and seeing him in a natural position, like his ability to grasp a new defensive position is phenomenal, and it's a tool that you do love. But I do think that what people don't realize is, like, I've seen him play live. I don't know, it's got to be 75 to 100 times by now. And a lot of those being in the minor leagues and being at his natural position. He is something special out there, man. You're going to have a lot of fun watching him play second base defensively. And then offensively, I think that once he starts to settle in, I know a lot of people say it shouldn't really matter, but it does. It takes a mental toll on you. You don't prepare the same way, and I think you're going to see just a phenomenal version of Scott Kingery, best hair in the division. So, yeah, Kingery.
There you go. Andrew, what about you for second base?
I want to take Ozzy Albies from Atlanta.
That's a quality pull.
I think he's just, again, can hit for average. He's got power. Hit 24 home runs the last 2 years. Gets on base as well. And then I think he's just, again, he's 23. So I think he's got a lot of room to grow still as well with that team, especially with everyone else in that lineup to help him kind of grow as a player too, and a lot of chances to get RBIs. So I think he's my leader. And I mean, Kingery's going to be close. I think, again, like you said, Shane, once he settles into a position, I think he's going to only elevate his game even more. So I think it's going to be a fun race between those two, though.
Yeah, Albie's definitely another very worthy name, and another guy who's going to be a thorn in the Phillies side for years to come. Biscuit, what about you? Who do you have at second base?
Man, that Braves lineup, it just... Hearing you guys talk about Ozzy Albies' age, and obviously, full disclosure, Acuna's on my list for center field, and him being a young phenom, I hate the Braves. I hate the Braves. But I went with Ozzy Albies too. I think he's the best second baseman in our division. As Andrew mentioned, he's got all the tools. He plays the position well. He can run pretty well. He hits for an average. He hits for power. He's young. He's going to be around for a minute. He's a true thorn in the Phillies side, and he's good at it. He's just a heck of a ball player, and that's why I went with him.
All right. So I was seriously...
You see,
I was seriously thinking about what's that?
This is only going to make sense for Rob, but did you see Naz?
No, I didn't.
What a fucking babe, Jesus Christ!
Good for her. I'll have to check it out.
All right, scrolling through Twitter looking for random other shit. Just hit the timeline,
Man.
but Jesus Christ.
All right, well, I'll have to check that out once we're done recording this year. I was really thinking about penciling in Segura at a third position, since we've
Jesus.
already mentioned him for third base and for shortstop. I was thinking about mentioning him for second base, but I think I'm going to have to agree with Shane. I'm going to go with Jetpacks. I love what I saw from him last year, even though the average did dip at the end of the season a little bit. It was up north of 300 for the good part of the season. That ended up dipping down into the 250s. But we saw a lot of what we can expect from him for the future. That kind of sneaky pop where he gives you, 20, 25 homers, maybe even a little bit more than that. Maybe aided by the juice balls last year, but he came through clutch in a lot of big situations, had a number of big hits. His plate discipline was so much better last year than it was in his rookie season. And once he has that one position, as opposed to being thrown all over the infield and sometimes in the outfield, once he's settled in at that one position, I think it'll allow him to kind of focus and zero in on honing his offensive game, and that's when we'll see his true potential unlocked. So I'm going to go with Jetpacks as my second baseman.
I gotta
All right.
say, oh my bad. I'm surprised that you guys, because I have the same thought. I think that Scott Kingery will do wonders once he's in a more situated role. There was an article published a couple, months before the season was supposed to start about how Scott Kingery said, playing every other position, not knowing where I was going to start some nights started to take a mental toll on him. And a lot of people are of the perception that he's going to hit regardless how he is, regardless of what position he's playing. But I'm kind of shocked to hear that you guys have that opinion as well, that one set position will really benefit him.
I don't think it's that way for every player, but I think that for a young player who never really had the opportunity to step into the majors at a singular place, I do think that's a tough thing. I think that had you asked a, 5 or 6 year vet at that point to be like, hey, can you start traveling around the diamond for us to help us out? Because we have a young stud coming up, or we have a trade acquisition we think we need to make. I think that conversation's easier to have, but Scotty's never had that opportunity. And he played for a guy who valued versatility over, singular stability. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that the pieces I think weren't appropriate for that. And Scotty being one of those pieces. That's the only reason I would say that, because I do think that versatility is an extremely important thing, especially the fact that in today's baseball, it's especially the infield. Fuck, man. Third basemen or second basemen sometimes for half the game of the batters with these severe shifts. Shortstops or third baseman. Like, it doesn't matter. But for a young guy, it does.
And that after they kind of settle him in at one position, the versatility is still going to be there. They're going to utilize it a little bit less than they have in years past.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so moving on to first base now. And this is kind of either a 2 or a 3 horse race, depending on how you look at it. But Biscuit, we'll start with you. Who would be your starting first baseman for an all NL East team?
I wanted to say Alonso, but I think I'm going to go with Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, you are.
I have an admiration for Freddie Freeman just because he kind of came up and started producing for the Braves at a time when the Phillies were atrocious. So you could admire him from afar because, it's not like we're going to win anything anyway. So I don't care really what he does to us because, I hate to say the phrase meaningless baseball, but we weren't playing for anything. Everyone knew that we were out of, contention for all those years. It wasn't like we were trying to win any World Series or make it to the playoffs. So I grew akin to really watching him and seeing him perform. I'm surprised he hasn't won an MVP yet. I think he's, on track to be a Hall of Famer. The guy just is really talented with the bat. I have a thing for left-handed power hitters. Something about it. It's so majestic. And fuck Pete Alonso.
Oh man, fair enough.
What a dad.
Oh god. All right, Shane, who do you got for first base?
I'm doubling up on Biscuits here. I honestly thought I was going to be the only person to take Freddie Freeman, but so there are certain players that you watch, throughout the years that you're like, shit, if I ever have a kid, like this is a person that I want them to watch. And Freddie Freeman's that guy. I mean, defensively, he's incredibly sound. And then offensively at the plate, he has an approach that is so fucking hard to beat. You can be some of the best pitchers in the game of baseball, and he's such a tough out. He's one of the few guys who still, he uses a fairly short bat for someone of his height. He chokes up with two strikes. Like, he has such a classic approach to the game of baseball offensively that you don't really see anymore. And you certainly don't see from superstars, which he very much so is. And I agree. He's on a particular track, Joe. Freddie Freeman, he's just one of those guys that shit, even when he beats the Phillies and the Phillies are good and in contention, I'm not mad because he's such a damn good player. I just can't help but respect him. And I've also watched a lot of games live with him during that shitty run of baseball, similar to you, Joe. And I almost always got tickets behind the away team's dugout because they release tickets super late that are not purchased on StubHub. And I would just sit there and hawk, and I'm like, all right, swoop in, grab them, always hit 2 or 3 rows. So you start to see these guys and the way that they interact with their teammates. He must be like a top 5 clubhouse guy in all of baseball. I mean, these guys, young guys, just completely adore him. He adores the game. And you can tell he's just one of those guys that as he's going, that team's going to go. And as long as he's a Brave, that organization's going to be dangerous.
Yeah. Certainly a very worthy name. Andrew, who do you have as the first baseman for the NL East?
Yeah, I'm going to make it 3 straight. I also had Freddie Freeman. I think he's just the most complete first baseman. I mean, yeah, Pete Alonso might be able to hit the ball, 400, 500 feet or whatever.
Once.
But
does anyone believe that Fatty's going to keep it up?
That's what made him explode.
Alonso? I think he will. I think it might not be, depends what kind of ball they're using. I don't know if it'll be, 53 home runs. But I could see him being a guy who hits 30 consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. He'll hit those long balls and he'll hit 40 to 50 home runs. But when he's hitting 250, I'd take the first baseman who can hit 35 to 40 home runs, give you the same amount of RBIs, but a guy that's going to hit around 300 and get on base close to a 400 average, because I think he had like a 390 average on base percentage. So I'm going to take the more complete player in that sense. And like you said, Shane, even the glove, he has that sense of it too. He's just a perfect player to go out and watch, and a guy you want someone to look up to.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Well, shit, I thought we were going to have a little bit of diversity for this position, but I'm going to make it a clean sweep. I'm going with Freeman as well. Just another guy who's been a thorn in the Phillies side for years. And Andrew, I agree with you that I think the juice ball certainly helped Alonso a little bit. And the thing is, Freddie Freeman has been a consistent hitter. He was even, he came up kind of during that dead ball era, the early, 2010s, when home runs were kind of at a premium, and he was still hitting 30, 35 home runs, but at the same time hitting for a high average as well. And you got to remember, a lot of those Braves teams, around, I want to say like 14, 15, 16, they were just as bad as the Phillies were. The only difference is they had a better farm system, which is why they're light years ahead of us right now. But those teams they were, pushing 95, 100 losses just like the Phillies were, and he was still putting up huge numbers. And he's been so consistent throughout the course of his career. He's consistently been around the 300 batting mark. He's consistently been around 30 to 35 home runs, driving runs in, doesn't strike out like at all, pretty much. He's one of the best in the game at putting the ball in play. Even as a Phillies fan, I love Freddie Freeman. He's one of my favorite players in the game. So I'm going to have to make it a clean sweep. 4 for 4, Freddie Freeman, the first baseman for the National League East. All right, so moving on to left field. And Andrew, we'll start with you this time. Who's your left fielder for the National League East?
So I went to the Nationals for this one. I took Juan Soto. I think I think there's a couple options you could go here with, but I think he's got the most power. I think he can kind of drive the ball in better than others. He stays healthy. I think he's the most reliable. And I think again his power mixed with his RBIs, and I mean a guy that he hit 282 last year, but his on base percentage was 401. So I think another guy that knows the game, knows when to take pitches, and knows the game really well, and the IQ kind of takes him to the next level and just allows him to be, to me, and another young guy. I mean, age 21.
He's 21. I was going to mention that.
I think that's something special about the NL East is like this division is going to be one of the best in baseball for a long time because like if you think about it, all these guys we're mentioning are all, I mean, outside I guess Howie Kendrick, I think all these guys are probably, I think Freddie Freeman just hit 30 last year, so outside of Kendrick, I think everyone's been like 30 or under, and that's just something special about this division and the competition is going to be.
That's for sure. A lot of young talent in this NL East. Biscuit, who's your left fielder?
I went with Juan Soto too. I put up the stats right now, and just from the power to his on base skills to the fact that he can draw out at bats. I'm someone, as I mentioned earlier, I have Acuna on my list too for center field. I'm curious to what you guys think in the debate between Acuna and Soto. Which one do you guys like more?
Acuna.
Really?
I'm going to go Soto.
I think I go Soto.
I think Soto too. I think Acuna's great. I think he's one of the best outfielders in all of baseball, let alone in the National League East. But I think he still has some growing pains. Obviously, there was the issues last year when he didn't hustle out a few ground balls that could have been turned into hits, or he could have been safe at first base. He made some mental mistakes in the outfield. Who remembers the Scott Kingery inside the park home run where he dropped the ball essentially and just kind of shook his finger instead of, running to the fucking ball and picking it up like any sane baseball player would have done. So I think he still has some growth, whereas Soto's kind of more checked in and more in tune with everything happening.
Soto, for what it's worth, was much better in the playoffs as well. I mean, he was arguably the best player for the Nationals when they went on their run to win the World Series last year.
Yeah.
All right, so Shane, I think I have a feeling that I know where you're going to go with this answer, but who's your left fielder for the NL East?
I am going to go with exactly who you think I'm not going to go with, honestly. And it's nothing against Juan Soto. I think he's going to have a nice career. But I think that there are players that come along who you can tell are going to be just pesky enough and who are always going to be good and who are always going to kill you, at that time. And they're never going to be the sexiest of names, but when the career's all said and done, you're going to be like, fuck, that guy was fucking good. And I think that's Jeff McNeil. I fucking hate him with everything in me. I can't stand watching him play. He murders us. He's just one of those guys that I feel like is going to have one of those quietly deadly good careers. And I think that it's going to be he's almost going to operate in like anonymity in terms of, when you take a look at the outfield names that are in our division. But I do think when it's all said and done, man, I think he's going to have one of those types of careers that, not going to be the sexiest while he does it, but he's going to be crazy good. And I also fucking hate Juan Soto. Like, I hate Jeff McNeil, but I fucking hate Juan Soto.
I hate him too. I just think he's very good.
He's amazing. He really is. Like I said, nothing against him on the field. He's going to have a good career. But it would not shock me that he's someone who doesn't always handle it great. Like I could see him going the Javi Baez route. Like he's that cocky douchebaggery that Javi Baez has, and Javi Baez has been able to play through it and been incredibly successful. But I also think there's a path that sees that kind of a player not handle it well and, maybe kind of teeter off and fade away and be a fraction of what he could have been. Time's going to tell. But I'm going to take the safer bet in terms of left fielders at this point. I'm going to go with Jeff McNeil.
So I am genuinely shocked that you did not go with your boy McCutcheon there.
Well, McCutcheon's an asshole, honestly. Like, I don't like him as a person.
Really?
He's a fucking, well, he's great with, I shouldn't say that. So in my interactions with him, I was less than pleased. And I think this is one of the times that when you do get the opportunity to work with athletes or people, with that kind of a stage and platform, that you're either pleasantly surprised by some of the people in the way that, like, oh wow, they're really just a person like us, and like, they're decent humans. And then there's guys who just aren't, and he was one of the worst people I've ever worked with. And so, and you guys may remember the night. So, do you remember it was the Colorado Rockies series last year? He had been in a little bit of a slump, and there was all this talk about him coming out early for early BP that day and taking extensive BP before anyone else was on the field at 31, 32 years old, whatever he was last year. And then he came in and hit a 2-run home run that night. You guys remember that?
Yeah,
I believe
that
so.
one.
Yes.
So he took 2 extra buckets because he didn't want to work with us. So I'm going to take some pleasure in the fact that he was fantastic from that point on until he got hurt, specifically to avoid working with us. But he was definitely kind of a jerk. So like, I love what he is for the clubhouse, and clearly the guys love him. But I do think that there's like some falsities about him that kind of suck. So I am going to go with Jeff McNeil, who's a piece of shit as far as I'm concerned, but whatever. He's going to have a pesky good career.
Oh, man. So I am going to go with McCutcheon just because, you saw how much the Phillies offense dropped off once he got hurt last year and how important he was to that offense. Not the player that he once was when he was out in Pittsburgh, not the perennial MVP candidate, underappreciated guy because he was playing in a small market, but he's still a very, very good baseball player. And he doesn't have, obviously in his 30s now, he doesn't have the same upside as guys like Acuna and Soto and Jeff McNeil, but he's a proven guy. He goes out there. He's an important piece of the offense. He's still got some of that pop, and he's very, very good at knowing what's a strike and what's not. That's such an important thing, especially in today's day and age where it's a 3 true outcome game. And he goes up there, he draws walks, he gets on base, comes up with big hits when you need him to, and just the veteran savvy that he has about him is so important to a baseball club. So that's my reason for, even though he might be an asshole, I'm going to go with Andrew McCutcheon as the left fielder. All right, so moving on to center field, and Biscuit, we'll start with you this time. Who's your center fielder for the NL East?
Acuna Matata. What a
as hell.
wonderful ball
I have a
player.
fucking story for that. That was a piece of shit.
Oh gosh, I'm a corny person. Acuna. What a baseball player. And very similar 5-tool. He can play almost every position in the outfield, or he does play every position in the outfield. He's got the power. He has the speed. I knew he's fast, but I didn't realize he led the National League in stolen bases last year with 37. I remember a storyline being, his 40 for 40 season, hitting both 40 home runs and having 40 steals. He's just a dynamic ball player. Like I said earlier, I still think he has a little bit of a learning curve, just, adjusting to being, a more sound ball player who's really in tune with everything happening, always running out balls and playing hard. But I think, like Ozzy Albies and like almost every player on the Braves, young, dynamic, wickedly talented, and is going to be around for quite some time to literally drive me insane. So I went with Acuna.
Fair enough. Shane, where are you going with this one?
I'm also going Acuna. So I mentioned with with Juan Soto in my argument against it, that there are those cocky type of players that you see go kind of 2 routes. You see them get kind of humbled, and maybe they're a fraction of what we believe that they could have been in the end, or they go the Javi Baez route where they're still, perennial MVP candidates. I think last year was such a kick in the dick for him. When you take a look at what he was able to accomplish last year, you're in awe of what could be for him. But what sticks out, and what sticks out for most of, the fans of baseball, is that laziness, is the arrogance, and, is that kind of me above the team type of thing. And I do believe that that's going to be the worst version of him we ever see. And I think the rest of his career is going to be a fuck you kind of a career. Like, I'm 20 years old when this shit happened. That does not define me. And he's going to be 35 and he's still going to be fucking phenomenal. And I think it's going to be because of last year. So I think that of every outfielder in this division, including a name that we're probably all going to mention on right field spot, I genuinely believe he has the highest of ceilings, and I believe that he is right now the best outfielder in this division.
All right, and Andrew, where are you going with center field?
I'm gonna say Ronald Acuna as well. Like you guys already mentioned, I think he's the complete package, 5-tool player, steals. I mean, he does everything, and I think I'm with you, Shane. I think last year is really gonna hit him, especially with the way. I mean, he got benched. I know he got benched at least once. I think even more than that. I think a couple times. I think it's really gonna kind of hit him, and I think I don't think he's gonna be a fully different player in terms of that sense, but I think it's definitely gonna make him try to come around and kind of fix that kind of stuff. And I think he's gonna really take it to another level in terms of that sense. And I think once he kind of figures that out, and if he can add that leadership to the clubhouse, I think it's just gonna be that much more. And I mean, we mentioned Freddie Freeman. He's got a guy to look up to in that sense. So I mean, if Freeman can really help him out with that, it's only going to get scarier for the rest of the NL East.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I kind of compare it to the benchings, Brian Snicker benching Acuna, to the times that Larry Boa would bench Jimmy Rollins for not running out pop-ups and stuff like that. And you would see it get through to Rollins that he would go out there the next game, he would bust his ass, and he would be a productive player.
How long did that last?
What do you mean how long did it last?
3-4 games before he did some dumb shit again. Fuck Jimmy Rollins.
Dude, he was the best shortstop in Phillies history.
Oh, yeah, no argument. He was still an ass.
You just hate him, man.
I do loathe Jimmy Rollins.
Oh, my God.
Why do you loathe Rollins?
Oh, we got to go down that path now. That's fine. He very much so. He was just kind of the opposite of the personality that I ever got along with as a player. And I hated a guy who I genuinely believe that he's like a borderline Hall of Fame kind of a guy right now. I don't think there's any way that he should get in. But I believe that with his actual talent, had he just shut the fuck up, don't get me wrong, 2007, we needed the arrogance and it kind of elevated the city. But I think that there were entirely too many times that I just don't think he understood the power he had in that clubhouse. That whole, as Jimmy goes, we go, that's true. But he was a lazy fucking idiot a lot of the time. And not a lot of the time, that's unfair. Just when it happened, it was incredibly glaring. And I always hated that. I resented him for that. I believe that if he had the kind of drive, he could keep his personality and the quirkiness about him and the liveliness about him. But if he had the drive and determination to give a 162 game season in the way that Chase Utley did, I think that Jimmy Rollins was head and shoulders a better player overall, and we wouldn't be having a borderline argument. We'd be having one of the better shortstops in the history of the game conversation. I hate that he didn't reach that.
All right, well, agree to disagree there on Jimmy Rollins, but getting back to the topic at hand, I'm going to make it a clean sweep once again. It's going to be Acuna in center field. He does need to straighten out that attitude thing, the taking plays off, not hustling. I do remember that Kingery, the inside the park home run where Acuna just gave up on the play, and that's from the perspective of just a baseball fan in general, it's totally unacceptable. But he is an elite talent, and he's only going to get better. He's only 22 years old, so he's another guy within this division. He's going to be kicking our ass for a long time, and I hope that I'm wrong about all of these guys kicking our ass for a while, but Acuna is going to be one of them. He's going to be up there with, that was my voice just cracking, by the way.
Puberty.
Man, he's going to be right up there with Juan Soto. Juan Soto being 21, Acuna being 22. They're both going to be kicking our ass for a long ass time. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Acuna as the center fielder. And before we get into right field, is anybody going to say a name other than Bryce Harper?
No.
I feel like we can just skip this one.
No,
I was going to say Nick Markakis.
Hey, 38-year-old who's going to forever slap 330 as an average. That guy's got some talent.
And forever Dick Slapdingers at Citizens Bank Park.
Oh, God.
That's true, too.
Started. No, I went with Bryce as well.
We all did.
All right, yeah, 4 for 4, Bryce. And for the sake of saving time, we're just going to go with one ace pitcher. Who is the ace of the NL East? Andrew, we'll start with you.
There's some good names in here as well, but I'm going to stick with the longtime veteran Max Scherzer.
Very good choice. All right, Shane?
I'm going to Grom all the way. I could watch this dude pitch just every single night. Like, to me, he's up there with, like, I get excited when the Mets are on national TV games, specifically when he is pitching, because I know that I'm going to, there's 100% a chance that I'm going to see something incredible every single night. He's just filthy.
Yeah, he is ridiculous. Biscuit?
I'm going to go with DeGrom as well. Obviously, Strasburg, not that I would have picked either of these guys, but Strasburg isn't in the division anymore. I think Max Scherzer's on the decline. Jacob DeGrom is really like that beast right now. Won the Cy Young Award the last 2 years, a 3-time All-Star, a Rookie of the Year. I think if he puts up another 4 to 5 seasons like he has the last 2 years, I think he's someone that's looking on that Hall of Fame track as well. He's just so dominant. He's so good.
Are we all going to let this Strasburg thing go? Am I the only one that heard this?
No, I was going to wait till he's done. I thought Strasburg was still on the Nationals.
There's no thinking about it. He's still a national.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Oh my gosh! I got him and I got him and Rendon mixed up. Wow, that's when you know it's
He's
past
not
my
even the same
bedtime.
Racially,
Oh my gosh!
position-wise.
I hate
my
myself.
God.
Well, I wouldn't have went with Strasburg anyway, but I should be ashamed of myself, and I call myself a baseball fan. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I let everyone
That's all
down.
right. That's all right. Don't let it happen again, man.
I think you might owe us an embarrassing story for that one.
Oh my
Or
gosh!
maybe that is your embarrassing
That
story.
is my embarrassing
I think that
story.
is the embarrassing
What the
moment.
fucking fuck? I'm mad at myself, dude. All right, I went with DeGrom. I'm just going to shut the fuck up for the rest of the night.
All right. Well, I'm surprised that nobody showed any love for Ranger Suarez. Nah, but in all seriousness, I am going to stick with the Philly. I'm going to go with Aaron Nola. Scherzer is obviously he's a very, very good pitcher. He's done a lot of great things, and he's a proven guy. Thrown a couple no-hitters, won a World Series. All that's great stuff. And DeGrom's got great stuff as well. He kills the Phillies. He's put up great numbers year after year. The thing that worries me about DeGrom is the potential for arm issues. Just
And
because
it doesn't worry you about Aaron Nola?
Well, the thing is, the Mets are known for, throughout their history pretty much, having great arms and completely.
And the Phillies are a
ruining
notoriously healthy organization, or any sports team in the city.
Well, they don't have. I mean, look at the Mets' history going back to like the mid '90s. They had those. I forget their names, but those big three pitchers that.
Yeah, I'm not disputing how poor the Mets are. I'm just saying, like, your concerns with DeGrom are arguably the exact same concerns that I would have with Aaron Nola.
Well, I do have those concerns with Nola, but to a lesser extent. That's what I'm getting at. I think that the Mets have a notorious history for abusing their pitchers and running them into an early grave. The Phillies, not so much. I mean, yes, in recent years they've had some injury problems, but pitching-wise, I mean, Nola, the past couple seasons, ever since he had that arm issue, what was it, back in 2015, 2016? He's been able to stay healthy since then. So I'm not worried about Nola's health as much as I would be for DeGrom. I think that Nola is going to be the future of the NL East pitching-wise, and I think that
I love it.
last year, when was kind of an aberration. The fact that he got off to a slow start and also had a slow finish, I think that was very uncharacteristic of him. I think that throughout the course of his career, we can expect more consistency throughout the course of the season. I think that we're going to have a lot of seasons that more closely resemble 2018 than 2019 for Aaron Nola, and that's why he's my choice for the NL East pitcher.
Yeah, I think last year was tough for him. Pitched a lot of innings the year before. The slow start, I feel like, was kind of inevitable, and then he got moved to the literal every fifth day, not every fifth game. And Gabe Kapler pretty much made it known that they were banking on his every fifth start to be like a put this one in the W column. And right from that moment on, I don't know that he had another win the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. But I love the fact that you just said that you think he's the future of the NL or NL East. I love that take. I hope you're right with it.
Yeah, I hope I am too. Oh man. But yeah, he's one of the young players that I'm actually the most confident in. I don't know why. I feel like he's going to have a great career, and I think that he's going to do most, if not all, the damage with the Phillies. So yeah, hopefully I am right about that. All right, so you guys got anything that you want to add to the starting nine for the NL East? Any thoughts you want to add in there?
Not add, but I had two questions I thought of while we were talking about all this. First,
let's hear 'em.
Obviously no one picked a Marlin, but did anyone think about any Marlins?
No, not me at least.
Sixto.
No, Boric or not Boric. Biscuit did jokingly throw in Jorge Alfaro, so there was a Marlins mention.
But because I don't know, I wasn't thinking about anybody. I was actually looking at the roster just to see if I forgot anybody. And
it's pretty terrible, isn't it?
Not only is it terrible, but they sign a lot of left fielders. Like they have like a big name that have been around for a while, but like Corey Dickerson's obviously not bad. But then they signed Matt Kemp and Matt Joyce, so they're just filled with a bunch of veteran names. I just thought it was funny.
That's what the Phillies did. Mm-hmm. 2014, 15, 16.
Marlon
really.
Bird.
Hey, I loved Marlon Bird.
I like Marlon Bird too. Delman Young, Grady Sizemore.
Speaking of that, we got to get to his thing, man. I got a couple bones to pick about it.
All right, well, let's get to it then. Andrew, you want to talk about the brackets that you had?
Yeah, so after doing the all-time Phillies great one, I created one from the quote-unquote process years. I just went through a bunch of names that I thought not off talent, but just funny guys that were either really bad or the guys that just stuck around for a while. So the one seeds in here were Franco, Galvis, Dominic Brown, and Cesar Hernandez. I don't know, what matchups did you guys like the most?
I would just like to say that I'd like to eliminate the entire upper left quadrant. That's what pissed me off. I actually could find, like, there were a couple things that really made it difficult on me in the other brackets, but that one I was like, I don't fucking want any of these guys advancing.
That's actually one of my 16 over ones. I picked Ty Kelly over Michael Franco.
Oh, you're just a stubborn ass for that.
I hated Franco, dude.
You cannot be serious.
Hey, my only memory of Ty Kelly, in my defense, my only memory of him is hitting a grand slam against the Giants. I have no bad memories of Ty Kelly, mainly because he didn't do anything here. I have no bad memories of Ty Kelly.
Didn't do anything.
I have plenty of bad memories of Michael Franco.
Oh my god. I have so much judgment for you right now. I don't like Franco either, but like out of this bracket, it's clear he's got to go to at least win 2 rounds here.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. Well, what do you have against Ken Giles?
Me?
Yeah.
This is a really stupid reason. So all around baseball at the time that Ken Giles was here and really ramping up, every bullpen in all of baseball had multiple guys throwing 100 miles an hour, and no one gave a shit because it was the new norm. But in Philly, we had to have 100-mile-an-hour Giles, who wasn't even regularly hitting 100, whereas another guy in this bracket was Jake Diekman, who got no love. I just always felt like, why are we making such a big deal out of a guy who's got 1.5 pitches and his fastball's not even that fucking great? Like, it just drove me fucking crazy.
I think one of the things that kind of brought attention to him was, I mean, obviously he didn't have the career like him, but I think he pitched similar to Lidge did, and I think people kind of hoped in that sense he turned into something like him because he was kind of like that hardball thrower and had the slider as well.
I think that's like a very accurate statement.
And then that's what I think. That's just the big thing with him. And then I also know a lot of people that love the squat before he pitched. He always had to do that squat. I don't know if anyone else noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
Every time.
Yeah, leaning in. It was kind of similar to was not similar to what Kimbrel did, like the squat.
Kimbrel did that fucking thing with his arms.
That's
Looked
right.
like
He
a
did that. He did the
Do you guys remember the bird game?
Oh my god, that they mocked in the stands. That was hilarious.
That motherfucker.
Who did you guys have coming out of this bracket? I'm genuinely curious because, like, I went with Jake Diekman specifically because Ken Giles pissed me off that much. Like, I went with him specifically because of that.
I went with Diekman upsetting, well, not upsetting, but taking down Darren Ruff and then taking down Justin DeFreitas and then on his way to the Final Four.
I think I went with Ken Giles.
Jesus.
That's right. I was a big Ken Giles.
Mile Giles.
That is what it is.
All right, so what about that lower left quadrant? Who do you guys have representing the Final Four in that one?
You got to throw a name out here. You got to let one of us know who can talk.
Oh, man. All right, well, Shane, since you brought it up, we'll start off with you.
So I have two names.
Aaron Altair?
Yes, obviously. Fuck Aaron Altair. Fucking waste of a baseball player. I love J.P. Crawford, like, with everything in me. And I'm, like, still not totally over him not being a Philly. He needed to go, but it makes me sad. I was going to take two names sarcastically out of this one because I hated the top bracket so much. The other name I was going to go with was Jared Eichhoff, which is a guy who I could watch pitch. Just when he's on, he looks like a top 5 pitcher in baseball. Like, without, like, he doesn't make sense in this era of baseball. Like, he's a true pitcher when he's on. An 88-mile-an-hour fastball at times, and it just didn't matter because he could spot it, and his secondary stuff had the potential to be so good. I think over the years he's been one of the most fun pitchers for me to watch. Again, when he's on, when he's off, it is a fucking nightmare. So I think that because of that, I'm going to go with J.P. Crawford out of this bracket because I have just such a love for him at the shortstop position. He was another one I loved watch through the process.
All right, that's definitely a very valid reason for that. Biscuit, who you going with for the lower left quadrant here?
I'm going with Freddie Galvis.
You're gonna owe 85 stories by the time this shit is over.
What do you got against Freddie, man? Like,
no. I love Freddie Galvis. I don't appreciate how you said his name.
I knew that was it right there. I knew it was the name pronunciation.
I liked Freddie. Obviously he was swift with the glove. If only he had a little bit better on base skills. I think it was either like 2016 or 2017 when he had like 20-something home runs, but his OPS was like under 700 because he just wasn't getting on base. He just, had a little bit more pop. He was one of those players. He was just dynamic in how he played the game. I do think he's someone who I kind of wish he just had a better career because I like him enough. I just wish he was good at baseball. Not that he isn't at least mediocre, but like he's someone who throughout all the rebuild years, he was just someone to watch, and it was just kind of refreshing, seeing some of his highlights because he did kind of play with his dynamic personality.
I remember being at one game where he made the most ridiculous defensive play I've ever seen in person in my life. It was against Atlanta. He took a ground ball up the middle, made a diving stop, and then as he like literally rolled over and made the throw in the air, no hops, in the air to first base in like one fell motion. And he kind of like came down on his shoulder and he hurt his shoulder on the play, but just the fact that he made a diving stop and then made the throw so quickly as he was rolling over and got the guy out at first base, it was absolutely ridiculous. One of the best plays I've ever seen. So, Andrew, who do you have coming out of that lower left quadrant there?
I understand he was really good at defense, but I couldn't stand Freddie. So this bracket had a lot of guys I did not like in it, and for that reason, I went with a longtime MLB veteran, and that's Jeff Francoeur. He's probably my favorite out of this bracket.
Yeah, I was gonna go with Frenchie as well.
And then I thought about Pat Neshek, but since he doesn't know how to go more than one inning, he doesn't deserve to go past one round. So.
Fucking injures himself carrying groceries back to his fucking house.
Did he really? I didn't know that.
I don't know if he did or not, but I would not be surprised if he did.
Oh, not at all.
So yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna go with Frenchie from that lower left there. Let's take a look at the upper right, and Andrew, we'll start with you this time. Who's your guy from the upper right?
So I know we didn't get much fan love, but I like Cesar Hernandez. I'm gonna go with him out of this region.
Nice. Caesar. All right.
Yeah,
Shane.
My bad.
So this is another bracket that I wanted to punch Andrew in the face for. So I hate the fact that the two names I like most out of this had to go against each other in the opening round, and Cameron Rupp and Marlon Byrd. That really pissed me off. I'm going to go with Marlon Byrd because I don't think I could justify a Cameron Rupp going all the way to the Final Four, but like he deserved to at least win a round, if not two. So the fact that he got stacked up against Marlon Byrd, a two-time Philly, really made me upset, man. So do better bracketing next time.
I apologize.
No worries. It's okay. We'll let this one slide. It made for like an awkward amount of stress during a quarantine. I was like, why am I stressing over a Phillies process era bracket right now? But I was, man. That drove me crazy.
Man, the selection committee's coming under fire here.
No, it's perfect though. Like that's the kind of stress that like you welcome. Like this was fun doing. I also definitely had Charlie Morton going pretty far in this too, and he was another one where I was, God, like he only had fucking 4 games. But if you guys remember, like at that time, we were just starting to see what Charlie Morton was turning himself into. Like he had added some miles per hour to his fastball. His curveball looked great, and I was like, oh, this is the season. This is Charlie Morton's going to be a real Charlie Morton, and then he tears his hamstring and goes to Houston. Is fucking incredible. But yeah, it's for me, it's got to be Marlon Byrd.
Yeah, actually, for that reason that you mentioned, I went with Charlie Morton just because he didn't do a whole lot here, but he was a very, very effective pitcher after he left, and we saw flashes of what he could have been if he hadn't gotten hurt. So I'm going basically purely off of what could have been for Charlie Morton as my choice in the Final Four. Biscuit, what do you got?
I went with the player who's had probably the best career out of everyone on this list, and I went with Juan Pierre.
That's a solid pool. I like
that year with the Phillies, his OPS was only a 721, but his on-base percentage was a 351, and he batted a very lovely 307 with only 1 home run and 25 RBIs, and that really was the case for his whole career. Never much of a power guy. I don't even think he's ever had more than 10 home runs in a single season. He was always known for his ability to be quick on the base paths, and have a pretty good set of on-base skills. But I think that was it was towards the end of his career when he was with us. It was in that 2012 season, and he still kind of raked, and he was pretty good. So I went with Juan.
Juan Pierre, just for the record, never had more than 3 home runs in a season.
Oh, my God.
He had 18 home runs for his career, and he had one of them with the Phillies in 439 plate appearances.
Can't trust anyone who wears a hat under the helmet.
The man had style.
He was ridiculously good
really.
on base pass, though. He was a huge part of that 0-3.
You remember that?
That's
what I was just going to say. With him and Castillo at the top, that was unfair. Like, one of them gets on, and there's no way they're not scoring that inning. Like, it's just, they're so
pretty
fucking
ridiculous.
Fast. It's awesome. College settlement camp in junior high is like an overnight thing, which I can't believe that even existed ever. But for like 4 days, and it happened to be during the World Series, and whatever the hell guy teacher was like set to be in like our bunk, we all pretended to have food poisoning. At his direction, specifically so our food would get delivered to our like log cabin, and on like this little 9-inch rabbit ear TV, we watched that World Series. That's my memory.
Oh, man. What a memory. Here's another fun fact about Juan Pierre. At age 32 with the White Sox, he had a career-high 68 stolen bases.
Oh, gosh.
Honestly, I forgot he even played for the White Sox. I just looked it up. He had 68 steals. That was in 2010. And before that, we should know well. He played against the Phillies back-to-back years in the NLCS as he is a member of the Dodgers. So a member of some pretty good teams. He was 2003, 2004. He was in the MVP voting that year. Didn't win it, but got some love in that regard. So certainly a very worthy name to mention there.
I'm on Baseball Reference now, Rob, and looking at that. His OPS was a 734. Could you imagine someone finishing in the top 10 of MVP voting like now in 2020 with an OPS that low? It would
Oh
be
my
like
goodness.
It wouldn't be a thing. It just
Not
goes to show
even
you
close.
how different the game is.
Well, in 2000, he came in sixth for Rookie of the Year, and his OPS was 673. And that was
Oh my
after
gosh.
not hitting a single home run at Coors Field.
Wow.
Anyway, moving on to bracket, and Biscuit, we'll start with you this time. Who's your guy?
Ooh, the last one. I guess the best player on that list would be Howie Kendrick, but I'm gonna go with the man, the myth, the true Philly legend, the guy who will go down in infamy as someone who we thought was going to be the next big thing, but was
Don't say
absolutely
Don Brown.
Dominic fucking Brown.
Jesus Christ.
Dominic
God
fucking
awful takes,
Brown.
man.
Who I believe in his first game, his first big league at bat, he hit
Doubled off the top of the wall.
Yup, hit that
Yep.
big double. I remember that was a T-Mac call, and he questioned it. He was like, "Is this going to be a home run?" But it was I believe it was like a stand-up double. And from that moment on, it was not very good. He is most remembered for his 2013 season when he hit a whopping 27 home runs. Had an incredible, I believe, like 6-week stretch. He was hot for about a month and a half. He had an
I think
all-star
he hit like
appearance.
20 of those home runs in that 6-week stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember he had like a bomb in Boston in one game. He absolutely crushed it. And everyone was like, "Oh, this is, the breakout." And like, rightfully so at the time. He was still only 25. Some people aren't even making it up until the majors until that age. And it really seemed like it was his time. And then from that, like, half of the season on, it was a totally different story.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, he basically made his whole career off of that 6-week stretch there. So,
Mhm.
All right, Shane, who's your choice from that portion of the bracket there?
I'm gonna go with a guy who, to me, is like the Colt McCoy of my baseball fan-ish type of thing. I always
John
believe
Pettibone.
that. Fuck you. I always believe that Colt McCoy, had he been drafted by any other organization other than the Browns, would have been a top 5 quarterback for at least a decade. And I believe that Cody Ashe, even to this day, could fit in somewhere in Major League Baseball and have a productive career. I don't know what it is about him. He was so much fun to watch. He was frustrating. I'll own that, but he should have been. He was just always such a victim to circumstance. Like, he came up at a time where the game was evolving, that you didn't really have a spot for third baseman or transition third baseman to left fielders that didn't have a power tool. And he never found his way after that. Like, I think he could have been totally fine hitting a 265 with 15 home runs. And I think eventually he would have been a 25, 30 home run guy. And I think his average could have crept up some. Defensively, I don't think he was ever going to light the world on fire anywhere that he played, but it just, with the game evolving, like, his skill set and his makeup just wasn't necessarily made for it. I feel like had he been playing baseball in like 2003, 4, and 5, like, he would have been a stud. And it really pisses me off because I love Cody Ashe. And also, Stephanie would leave me for him. So pretty confident in that.
I'm kind of in the same boat, believing that Cody Ashe could have been something if he was in a different era of the game. Unfortunately, I guess it just wasn't meant to be for him. So, unfortunately, didn't work out for him here. But I'm in the same boat. I thought that he had the potential to be something pretty good. Anyway, Andrew, who do you have in this this lower portion of the bracket here.
I went with a guy that has been mentioned on this a few times, and I wish we brought back this offseason. That's Halle Kendrick. I was always a huge fan of his when we got him the first time. I was like extremely thrilled, even though I knew we weren't going to go anywhere with it. I was just happy. One of my favorites got to the team, and I just love how he's like a true utility player, can play basically anywhere in the infield, and then also some outfield back in his old days. So I'm going to go with Kendrick, but one of my sleepers in this part of the bracket, I don't know what it was about Gomez, but when he closed for us a little bit, I don't know why. When he first started, I became a fan of his, and then obviously that backfired. But
wasn't that the one season that we're kind of like hovering a few games above 500 until like July, and then we ended up finishing like 30 games below 500?
Yes,
Yeah.
Because when he first started, he was actually doing really well, and then all of a sudden he just blew up, and I couldn't get anybody out, and his ERA just skyrocketed.
Yeah, I think I remember. I can pinpoint one game. I think it was against St. Louis where they had like a 3-run lead in the ninth inning, and he blew it, and that was kind of the beginning of the downfall for him that year.
Mhm.
I also always dug him. He was just never. He was another one who's had he come along years earlier, he'd have had a far more lengthier career. But he also had no fucking business closing baseball games. Like Pete McCann was such an asshole for that.
Yeah,
it was
that
either
was
him or
mine,
Ryan
yeah.
Sandberg. I can't remember which who made that decision. But
fuck
I
Ryan
think,
Sandberg.
right?
I think it was McCannon. I think
I think
Sandberg
it was
was
McCannon.
in the year before.
But I did like Genmar a lot. I felt like had he been, because he was a starter, beforehand, and like it was a awkward transition from like long man for a little bit to then all of a sudden, hey, you're going to close at 86 mile an hour. I just felt like he had value as a middle reliever, and they just really just did him wrong by doing what they did.
Yeah, it was really weird. Like I remember me and my brother used to go back and forth because he didn't like him, and I remember for whatever reason I just felt the need, and there's just something about him I loved, and I just like felt like I had to defend him every time his name got brought up.
I have a lot of athletes like that in this city.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Genmar, he had good enough stuff to be a good middle reliever. He wasn't cut out to be a closer, and unfortunately, due to the situation, the Phillies bullpen, or should I say the fact that they didn't have a bullpen, he ended up being thrown into that position there. So, and he did well for a little while for what it was, but he couldn't make it work in the end. But he would have been. I agree with you. He would have been a good middle reliever though. So I mentioned the group chat that I had a pair of 16/1s, and I hated Dominic Brown so much. I went with Roberto Hernandez over him.
Oh my God. Why? What is wrong with you?
Lots of things are wrong with me, but
like Aaron Altair could have been a 1 seed, and I would not have picked a 16 seed over him. I hated Aaron Altair.
Well, my thing with Don Brown is he was supposed to be the next big thing here, and he got off to a great start. He had that ring double, as we mentioned before, in his first at bat.
Can we say one thing about Don Brown?
What is it?
How the fuck did anyone who was at one point rated the top prospect in all of baseball, how did everyone that come in contact with him not see that fucking hole in his swing? Like now, honestly, he'd probably be a fine hitter because he was like the original launch angle. Like that was how ugly his swing was. But like now that people will be like, oh yeah, just fucking swing like that every time as hard as you can, and you'll Matt Stairs approach right now, and he'll hit like 212 and he'll have like 40 home runs. But like, how the fuck at the time that he was coming up, did no one sit there and say, we got to sit down and have a talk? You're gonna get exposed bad, just so you know. But they were like, he's great. He's hitting 330 in AAA. Well, it's because it's triple fucking A. Like, fuck, man. I hate the Phillies organization.
So can you see now why I picked Roberto Hernandez over him?
No, the fucking organization failed him. He didn't. I mean, he was
whatever. I'm still going with Roberto Hernandez over Don Brown, just because he got off to that hot start and he gave us so much hope. And then he let us down, and then a couple of years later he came back, and for 6 weeks he gave us so much hope once again, and he let us down once again. Fuck that guy.
I think that we genuinely, for like both this bracket and the last bracket that Andrew did, I think that we need to have a blank one out, and whoever's hosting that day, I think we need to do nothing but like essentially be in a juror's room, and whoever's on that show, we have to go matchup by matchup and find definitively who would win out of that bracket, because we've had so many arguments about different things on here. Like the fact that Rob has 2 16s over 1s is fucking absurd. I would love to do that because these brackets are too good to not revisit multiple times at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down for it.
All right, so that needs to be a show in the near future, because if 3 of us outvote Rob, which we should and would, like, we would have a more competitive bracket in the back end.
If we do that, then we won't have these ridiculous 16 versus 1 matchups. So yeah, let's form a selection committee here.
That's what I'm saying. Like eventually.
Right. So anyway, I'm gonna go with Howie Kendrick out of that quadrant here. So real quick, and Shane, we'll start with you. Who do you have winning the whole thing, this whole bracket?
The guy Stephanie would leave me for, Cody Ashe. Smashy. Love the guy.
All right, that's an interesting take.
The hell's that an interesting take for?
I didn't say it was interesting in a good way or a bad way. I just said it was interesting. So, all right. Andrew, who's your guy?
I'm going to go with Ken Giles.
Ken Giles? That's another interesting take.
Yeah, that's something that's going to make me really angry all night long. Be sitting here redoing this bracket and be like, nope, I've done it 85 times. Not a single time has Ken Giles got to the Final Four.
Oh, man. All right, Biscuit, who do you got?
I'm going to go with Andrew and stick with High Mile Giles. Just
recreate another nickname for him.
Just to, express how well he was in his 2 seasons with the Phillies before we traded him away for the great pitcher that we have now, Vince Velasquez, total stud. He had a 1.18 earned run average in 2014.
I've never heard someone say .18 before in an ERA, but keep going.
In 2015, it was a 180. Is that better, Shane?
Sure.
He was electric. He was a stud. And he's someone who I think, I wish he was on the team when we started getting a bit more competitive. Frankly, I wish he was on the team now. I think he's a hell of a closer.
He had that shitty goatee thing and like big teeth. Freaked me out. He's like Nick Cousins with a beard. It's just fucking weird to me.
That's an interesting take.
Dude, that's all you see when you see Nick Cousins is teeth. All I saw with Giles was a terrible goatee thing on the chin and teeth.
I never noticed it with Giles, but I did notice I couldn't look at a Nick Cousins picture for longer than like 1 second.
Like they had to have been wood, right? Like there's no way that any of those teeth.
Without a doubt, yeah. Without a doubt.
Anyway.
Honestly, Nick Cousins should just go the hockey player route and just get the picture done with no teeth.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to go with Howie Kendrick. It's going to be a battle of the veterans. Howie Kendrick and Jeff Frank are in the final, and I'm going to go with Howie Kendrick edging him out. All right, so you guys have any final thoughts you want to throw in? I know we've been going for like an hour and a half here, but anything else you guys want to throw in before
who wants to go first?
Real quick, going over this, it made me realize when you Biscuits mentioned you wish Giles was back this year. I don't know how I forgot one of my favorite relievers and Hector Neris. He's been here since like 2013, 2014, and I somehow forgot to put him on this process bracket.
Oh my God, he would have won for me.
He probably would have won for me too. He's always been one of my favorites. I don't know how I forgot to put him on here.
Oh well, hold on. I got this. Brett Oberhorst, get his ass out of there. What, he pitched 3 games for us? Get him the fuck out. Throw in the man.
I'll have to make that edit after this.
Well, you can't now because we're all going to pick him to win. But he would have been the de facto winner. We're just saying that, like, you know what? Whoever comes out of the bracket, we'll see. Would Hector Neris have beat him?
Okay, that sounds
and we'll
good.
put a poll up on one of your daily polls. It'll make sense.
That'll be interesting to see. That's a good one. Anybody else got any final thoughts you want to throw in?
I would just like to apologize to all podcast listeners for mistaking Steven Strasberg with Anthony Rendon. That's something that's going to keep me up tonight when I, question everything about my life, and I'm going to be like, why did I screw this one up? So I would just like to apologize for that.
Biscuit, I have something to tell you. So
What is
on one of our first Phillies podcasts that we had done, I don't know, 3 years ago now, 2-3 years ago, whenever it was, I mistakenly had said former second overall pick Nick Williams instead of second round pick Nick Williams. I've never recovered. It still haunts me. Like, so when you said that, I cringed, and it brought me back to a memory of when I fucked up that bad. And I was like, oh my fuck. And like, I rock back and forth as I'm sitting here at the microphone. So welcome, man. I'll see you in therapy. We're never going to get over that.
Yeah, it was a total Biscuits blunder that, like I said, when I'm laying in bed tonight thinking about all this quarantine and coronavirus and every thought swirling in my brain, I'm going to be like, someone is listening to this podcast and being like, Joe Biscuits does not know baseball. And you know what? You are right. So.
Oh, man. You know what we got to do? We got to go through the episodes and pick out all the Biscuits blunders so we can save them and just put them in a...
He has one.
Yeah, that's okay. Maybe not Biscuits blunders, but like blunders from all of us in general.
Give it a few more show, guys. I'm sure we could have a list. Especially doing these late night shows right now. I'm staring at a box of Pop-Tarts and the words are all blowing together, so it just kind of looks like Top Parts. Took some melatonin before the podcast. I forgot to bring that up, so right now everything's getting a little fuzzy.
I've been drinking NyQuil and coffee since we started. So I'm all kinds of confused right now.
Oh, God. All right, well, before we sign off here, I just want to give a shout out to the performers of our intro and outro music, the Jackdaws. You can find them online at thejackdaws.com. You can also find them on iTunes. You can find them on Spotify. And I love the fact that when I Googled them, it came up as bar fight music, which is it's pretty fucking awesome. I love that. I can't talk. God damn it. I love that.
It's because we've gone 90 minutes.
Yeah. I love that correlation between Celtic rock and bar fight music, because Celtic rock is bar fight music, but the Jackdaws are really good bar fight music. You should definitely give them a listen, check them out. Given the times right now, they're not able to
beating their spouses at home with this now. Like, they're not out at a bar. I feel like that was the incorrect time to mention bar, but whatever. Keep going.
Well, I was getting into that because the coronavirus right now, they're not able to be performing their live shows and, their main source of income. So they could really do for, people checking out their music on Spotify, checking out their music on iTunes, and just, showing some love to a very good band that's certainly deserving of people listening to their music. So give them a listen. You can find them on Spotify. You can find them on iTunes. You can find them once again at thejackdaws.com. And also I want to give another shout out to a local business that is Just Food. You can reach them by phone at 215-794-FOOD. They have locations, I believe, open. They're offering delivery right now. They have the one location in Buckingham Green off of York Road in Buckingham, and they have another location located at Delaware Valley University. Certainly a great selection of food there. If you're hungry, give them a look. That's once again Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Anything else you guys want to throw in before we call this one off?
Thank you for hosting, man. I make a significantly better and more competent co-host and host, so I appreciate anyone else that's willing to drive this car.
Oh, man. Well, tonight I feel like wasn't my finest performance, but I always appreciate the opportunity to host a show. I like co-hosting as well. I just like being a part of these shows. So if I'm hosting, great. If I'm co-hosting, great. Always fun to be a part of it. Anyway, we thank you for sticking with us throughout this way too long episode that I was intending to keep to like 45 minutes. And I think we went closer to like 2 hours.
Jesus.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you again for listening to this episode. And you can find us once again at ANYP Phillies on Twitter. You can find the Always Next Year Podcast Network at Always Next Year Podcast. You can find our personals. I'm at radio_Rob. Shane, where can we find you?
I am at Shane_Mead. Biscuit, go get your Top Tarts.
At Bros of Biscuit is where you can find me. Both B's capitalized.
Andrew?
And then I am AJ_Santangelo.
All right. And we will be back with another episode within the coming days. We thank you once again for listening to the podcast to be named later here on the Always Next Year Podcast Network.
Fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.